Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our current student panel discussion. I'm Christina Ciaccio, Assistant Director of Enrollment and Operations at the Culinary Institute of America, and I will be your host today along with some special guests. Before we begin, I want to go over some housekeeping items for the presentation. This discussion will be focused mainly on the perspectives of current students from our New York campus. But if you're watching and you are an applicant or have an interest in attending one of our branch campuses in Texas or California, feel free to follow along as aspects of this discussion will apply to you as well. For everyone joining us, we've compiled your most popular questions to answer today. While you're welcome to use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen to share additional questions that may come up, we feel that many of your questions will be answered throughout this discussion. Rest assured that if we are unable to get to your question, or if your question is very specific to your situation, you can email us at admissions@culinary.edu, and a member of our team will get back to you. This session will also be recorded and available to you on our website. As the world's premier culinary college and leader in the food and hospitality industry, we can't wait until we can host you on our amazing campus. But for today, we are committed to providing you with all the information you want to know about CIA. I'd like to welcome our special guests and thank them for participating in this panel. Today, we are joined by current students, Katie, Noah, and Victoria. Okay, without further ado, let's give them a warm round of virtual applause. Woohoo! Yay, guys. Now, starting with Katie, please introduce yourself.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Katie. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. I'm currently a junior at the CIA. I'm doing my bachelor's degree in applied food studies with my concentration in wine and hospitality. On campus, I am a tour guide, and I also work in the restaurants on campus, and I'm a member of the Bacchus Wine Society.
Very nice. Next up is Noah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Noah. I'm from Redline, Pennsylvania. I am a junior at the Culinary Institute. I am in the bachelor's program for food business management. I will be taking a concentration in farm to table on the East Coast. I did my internship on Long Island at a restaurant called The Halyard. I am an orientation leader for Green and Gold Weekends on campus. Next semester, I'll be starting as an RA on campus. I'm a group leader in kitchen classes, and I'm the vice president of SGA.
Wonderful. All right, and last up is Victoria.
Hello, everyone. I'm Victoria. I'm from Brookfield, Connecticut. I'm a second semester freshman. I'm currently in the bachelor's program for food business management with a baking and pastry core. I've not gone on my internship semester yet, but I'm currently in contact with Ron Van Israel Cakes in Manhattan. On campus, I work front of house at Apple Pie Bakery, and I'm a group leader in my baking and pastry techniques class.
Very nice. So let's start this conversation off. Why don't we just talk a little bit about what your favorite classes currently are? Katie, will you lead the way on this one?
Yeah, of course. So my favorite current class is my ecology class. That is a lecture style class, and right now one of our projects is actually tapping maple trees. So we tapped the trees in the forest right behind campus, and we boiled down around 100 gallons of sap into around 2 gallons of syrup.
Very cool. Noah, what about you? What's your favorite class?
My favorite class that I took at the Institute was my culinary fundamentals class. It was interesting to unlearn old techniques that were incorrect and learn better ways to do things I thought I knew how to do.
Okay, and how about you, Victoria?
I have to agree with Noah. On the baking side, I do really love my fundamentals class. It really opens your eyes to how little you know and gives you a sneak peek at every aspect of what you're going to learn further on in the program, and it gives you all of the basic skills that you need to succeed.
Awesome. Now, in that same breath, why don't we talk a little bit about what a day in the life is typically like for you guys? So start with waking up and end with the end of the day, what kind of homework might look like as well. Noah, you want to start this one off?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I'm an AM kitchen student. So I wake up about 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and I usually try to get myself a little something to eat. I shave and I get dressed, ready for class a little bit early. I get to class usually about 15 minutes early. I go through my kitchen class. We have a lecture period and then a physical period where we do our hands-on cooking. After I get out of class, I go home and I try to work on my homework. In my kitchen classes, we have what's called key terms and study questions, and every kitchen class on campus has a set of those. So I work through that. Right now, I don't have any academic classes. I just have the kitchen classes. So when I finish that, I usually try to get to the gym, and then I take care of my other responsibilities on campus, being an orientation leader and having meetings for SGA and things like that. I get dinner at the Egg, usually with friends, and then I get to bed.
Awesome. It's a very full day for sure. Now, you did mention before, Noah, that you were something called a group leader. Maybe you could talk a little about that dynamic and how it comes into play, during a typical class day.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a group leader, your primary responsibility is to act as the liaison between the instructor and the rest of your class. So any information that comes from the instructor or comes from higher parts of administration will be given to you. And then it is your responsibility to distribute that information to the people that are in your group and make sure they have accurate information as well. During an actual class day, it's your responsibility to watch over your group and make sure they are doing what needs to be done. The goal is for the class to correct itself before the instructor has to correct you, because if the instructor has to correct you, it means that the issue has gone too far.
So you're kind of like the peer mediator in kind of layman's terms. So you're helping to navigate and kind of get everybody set up for success, because you are going to different classes, several different classes throughout the semester. So awesome. Katie, why don't you talk about what a typical day is like for you?
Yeah, so I am in all lecture style classes right now, meaning I have finished all my kitchen classes. And I only have around 3 a day. So my first class, I get to choose what time my classes are for the following semester. So I chose them to start around 8:30 in the morning because I thought that was a good time for me. So I wake up around 8 o'clock, 7:45, get ready for my 8:30 class. I'll normally grab some coffee from Apple Pie right before my class. My classes range probably around an hour and 15 minutes long, so I have plenty of time in between my classes. I've spread them out so I can do an hour of tour guiding in between my classes if I need to, and then I'll get lunch with my friends, and I'll normally go to the gym around 2 to 3 times a week, depending on what I'm feeling. My typical day ends around 9:30. For my classes, as far as homework goes, most of my homework is reading articles, and with those articles, there will be a set of study questions that we'll need to prepare for the following day's discussion.
Very nice. Victoria, I think you also mentioned that you were a group leader as well. So is that dynamic pretty similar as to what Noah had mentioned for you guys? I know, go ahead, you can go ahead and touch on that.
Yes, it definitely is. We are the mediator between our class and our chef. And my chef also says we're almost like the cheerleader of our group to always keep the group positive and in the right mindset, just to add on to that.
Awesome. So Victoria, I know you are currently in baking and pastry classes right now. Why don't you touch a little bit about what homework is like for you?
Sure. So right now we have, as Noah mentioned earlier, we also do have key terms and study guide questions in which we do readings from our textbook. So that's about half an hour reading, and then we do key terms, and that all applies to our next class for all of the information that we're learning. And then we also have piping homework. So that's actual homework where we have a piping bag and we write either happy birthday, or we have different piping homework that we have to do for each class.
Awesome. Okay, great. Victoria, while I have you up, we're also getting some questions in about how do students become a group leader? So how is that actually, that process kind of initiated, and what does that look like?
That's a great question. So the process actually starts on the baking side. It starts about 4 weeks in. You start speaking to your chef and your class, and he brings up the conversation of a group leader. And you can become a group leader by speaking to your class and explaining that you'd be interested. And then there is an election process where your class votes for you to be a group leader. So typically you run against 2 other students, and the class decides who they believe would be the best choice for group leader. Awesome.
Thanks so much, guys. Okay, so a little bit more broad, but why did you guys choose CIA? Why was this the best place for you? I'm going to have Noah kick this one off.
This is a really fun question for me because though I only applied to the CIA, I did talk to several other culinary institutes in the Northeast. And each one I went to had a different thing to brag about and a different thing that they were really excited to share. The big thing they like to talk about is their curriculum because that's what we're interested in. And I found it really fun that when I went to these schools and they showed me the textbooks they were using in the curriculum they taught, it was these really prestigious textbooks and really good information they taught. And when I came to visit the CIA, I was meeting the authors of all of those textbooks and the instructors that had written all of those curriculum plans. And so for me, it was an obvious choice to come learn from the people that knew it best.
Awesome. We love that. Victoria, what about you? Why did you decide CIA?
The first time I came on campus, I had a very similar experience to Noah where I was meeting chefs that I had read books of and things like that. But when I spoke to my chef, who's now my fundamental chef, the passion that he spoke with about what he's teaching showed me that the teachers at the CIA actually care about teaching us, and they care about the information we're learning, and they care about each individual student's growth. It isn't about general classes. They see you as an individual, especially in kitchen classes, from what I've experienced. They want to see you grow, and I love that personalized look at education that the CIA offers.
Awesome. Katie, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Noah and Victoria have said. My experience is a little different. So I went to a different culinary school before I attended the CIA. And what I was missing was that perfect balance between student life and culinary school. And what I realized that the CIA had, they had all those club events going on. They had lots of student activities that you could do when you weren't in class. So it's a perfect balance of a traditional college as well as a culinary school. And so that is why I decided to transfer there. And it was the best decision I ever made. I never looked back. So it really is the perfect balance of everything you need in a university.
I love that. We were like the total package for you. That's awesome. We're getting a few more questions about what are like tests like or exams like? How are you measured in the classroom? So why don't we touch on not only daily grading, but also maybe the types of tests that you might have throughout the semester or, you know, like final exams, that kind of a thing. Noah, let's start with you.
Sure. I believe this question is about in-kitchen classes, right?
Yes, let's
Okay.
focus on kitchen classes. Mm-hmm.
Great. So in the kitchen classes, like you mentioned, there's daily grades. Every single day you're in the class, you'll be evaluated on a number of different things, including sanitation, organization, quality of product, efficiency, things like that, as well as professionalism. Beyond that, your homework plays a part into the daily grade and a big portion of your final grade. And then that depends on which class. In your fundamentals class, it's always a big portion. When you get into later classes, some instructors value other projects they give you outside of the key terms and study question rather than the key terms and study questions. Testing is usually 2 exams per class. In your fundamentals class that's stretched over 15 weeks, they're obviously very far apart. When you get into later classes that are only 14-day classes, the exams tend to be very close together. You'll take a midterm exam about halfway through the class and then a final exam at the end of the class.
Very nice. Victoria, do you want to touch on that as well for baking students? Is it any different or is it pretty similar?
So it is pretty similar. We do have an exam in the middle of the semester as well as one at the end. It is more spread out, so you have more time to learn, but you do have more material to cover within your fundamentals. Grading day by day is also done the same, but you aren't graded on your final product. You're only based on your organization, sanitation, and if you know the material that you're supposed to be using within your production. So you're not graded on your final product, which is great in fundamentals because you can make as many mistakes as you want.
Or sometimes as you need. Sometimes you definitely need to make some mistakes and that might just happen. So yeah, it's definitely a learning environment, but we want to keep things you mentioned, as professional and organized as possible. Great. Now, with that being said, Katie, why don't you talk about what exams are like for academic classes?
So depending on what class you have, what instructor you have, they're all going to be a little different. But our academic classes are a 15-week period, a full semester. They're normally 2 to 3 a week, meaning you're going to have every other day off of that class. So as far as exams go, we normally have around 3 to 4, I would say, and these exams are not including the midterm and the final. There will be some assignments where you might have reading quizzes on them. Most teachers will announce them, some will not. So you just have to be prepared with all of the material that you were supposed to know for that day of class. They are traditional style exams, meaning there are a few fill in the blanks. There might be A, B, C, D, and choose the right one, and there will be some short answers and perhaps an essay here and there.
Great. And I do want to point out that all classes start off with receiving a syllabus, usually at least a week before the class. So you are well versed in what the expectations are, what you're going to be graded on, and kind of what the course of that class is going to look like right before you dive into it. You'll usually have, a meeting with your class and the group leader where you discuss kind of upcoming projects or exams, big things like that coming up with the next class as well. Katie, while I have you up, why don't we talk a little bit about what services are available to assist someone if they happen to be nervous about classes?
Right, of course. What I suggest before you go to the tutoring center, which is at our library, Learning Commons right in the library, what I suggest is going to your teachers' their hours. So they will always have hours available throughout the week where if you have any questions or concerns, you go to them. What is so unique about our instructors is they really, really, really want you to succeed. They are there for you. They're there to be your friend and everything. So with any question you have, go straight to them. They'll be so happy to answer any questions you have. If you have questions about material, you need further tutoring, they can help you during those hours. If not, you can go to the library Learning Commons where we have tutors. And those people that are teaching you, I've been there so many times, and all those students have gotten A's in that exact class that you need help with, and they have all the materials that you need to be successful for that class. They'll have practice questions, practice exams. So it really is so much support in the library Learning Commons if you do need help tutoring for your classes.
For sure, for sure. And what I have to say is so especially nice about CIA is that everyone here is taking the same classes. Since we have very focused degree programs, you are literally surrounded by fellow students and classmates, including your tutors, who have all gone through, like you said, all the exact same classes that you are going to be going through. So it creates a very really unique and awesome dynamic. Let's change gears a little bit. This is a big one. How do you guys keep your chef whites white? I know this is a difficult thing to do. Noah, you look like you like this one. Why don't you take that?
So my first 2 semesters on campus, I struggled immensely. I was trying to barter with people, trading. I would sharpen people's knives to get whites clean because I didn't know how to do it myself. But after externship, I figured it out. I have a soaking tub. So I just have a plastic bin that I got from Target, and I fill it up about 3/4 of the way with room temperature water. I fill it in my shower, and then I put in OxyClean and Dawn dish soap. I whisk it up until it's all dissolved, and I soak my whites in there for a few days. And then when I wash them, I just use whatever laundry detergent I usually use. And after externship, I took out stains from my first semester using that method.
Awesome. So you've become kind of a mad scientist, but you've come up with a method that works for you. Victoria, Katie, I'm sure that you both have your own kind of concoction of ways to keep chef whites white. Anyone have some really big tips they want to share? Katie, you got one?
Yeah, just soak them as soon as you finish class. That is the easiest way to get them out. You're really lucky, Noah, that you could get out ones from the beginning of the semester. I learned the hard way. Mine were stuck forever. But I just soaked them after class. As soon as class ended, I filled up my tub in the shower. And I put OxyClean in mine. So I dissolved about 2 scoops of OxyClean in it, and I let it soak for 3 to 4 days. And then I would wash them and they would come out.
Go ahead, Victoria.
I have one more thing to add. If you don't dip them in right after, I haven't before because I've been a little lazy after class because I have PM kitchen classes. If you use OxyClean Max Force Spray, it gets all of the stains out. Everything.
You guys are so funny. I love that. Now let's talk a little bit about, so with that being said, I do want to share kind of a pro tip. Victoria, you mentioned, and Noah, you mentioned there are kind of a couple big tests that will happen in your kitchen classes called practicals. And something really good to keep in mind is that you might want to save like one set of your uniforms, so one chef coat and one pair of pants, to keep fresh and just kind of rotate through a few pairs. So that way, by the time you get to this big test, this big practical, that your presentation of yourself is really going to be a key factor. You have a brand new set of whites to use. So that's definitely, I would say, a pro tip. You definitely want to try and save that if possible. Go ahead, Noah, what do you got?
I absolutely agree with that. That's a fantastic idea. And the reason for that is when you come into your practicals, part of your grade will be professionalism, and that applies to your uniform. So if you come in with a stained, dirty uniform and apron, there's a chance you'll be kicked out of the exam and not be allowed to even make an attempt. So definitely take advantage of that. I made the horrible mistake my first semester. I immediately used all of my whites, and I had to fight to find the cleanest one for my practical exams. Additionally, I would say keep one of those really, really pure white jackets for career fairs and things like that.
All right, guys, you heard it here. Some pro tips for you. That's awesome. Now we're kind of gearing towards this. So why don't we talk a little bit about kind of what the dress code is like, what that is expected of you, maybe what things can you wear, what things you shouldn't wear, and if there's anywhere that you can dress casually around campus. Katie, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So there are two academic buildings on campus, Roth and McCann. Anytime you're entering those buildings, you either have to be in your whole entire chef white uniform, handkerchief and all, or you can wear what's called business casual. Now what I do, I wear a nice pair of black pants and a nice shirt. For business casual, you can wear skirts. Most men, I would say, wear polos or button downs, and some females do wear dresses as well, just make sure they're fingertip length. But I just play it safe and I just wear a nice pair of black pants and a shirt basically every single day. That is what I do for my dress code. Now, if you're going to the Egg, which is our casual student dining hall, if you're going to the library, if you're just taking a walk or a run around campus, you can wear whatever you want. Students are wearing pajamas, people are wearing sweatpants. Sports, athletic wear, you can do any of that, anywhere that is not an academic building.
Awesome. So not too much pressure when you're outside of class, but definitely when you're going to class, you are representing yourself and the CIA, and we do have lots of guests on campus, so it's really important that we are looking our best. Yeah, awesome. Now, maybe just one more question on this is, how many sets of coats and pants and stuff do you receive when you get them at the beginning of your program? Is that it, or do you get more coats along the way? Noah, why don't you talk about that?
Sure. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Katie and Victoria. I believe we got 7 when I started, but Katie, since you started earlier than us, I think it was a little bit different for you. But now, when you first start the program, you'll be given 7 full uniforms. It's your responsibility to take care of them and not use them all at once like I did. And then after your externship, you will have the opportunity to buy more uniforms if you so choose. But the best case scenario will be start soaking them your first semester and take really good care of them, and they'll last you through the whole program.
Awesome. Okay, great. Let's switch gears again and talk a little bit about the meal plan, right? It's hard to argue with our amazing meal plan. Let's talk about how you get your meals, where you get your meals, and maybe what your favorite thing you've had so far is. Katie, why don't you start this one off?
Yeah, so our meal plan is amazing. We get 20 points a day, which is equivalent to $20. You can use these either in the Egg or in Roth Hall where the kitchen classes are going on. So you can walk straight up to any kitchen class that is open for that day. There's a little TV that will tell you which kitchens are open for service and at what time. and you can go to those kitchens. They normally have 4 to 5 dishes to choose from. You tell them which one you want, and they'll make it right there for you. It's part of the class is actually learning how to create dishes a large enough amount to feed the students on campus, which is neat. So you can choose a dish and then you can go eat it in the dining hall. My favorite kitchen to go to is Cuisines of Asia, just because I love all types of Asian food. I'm sure so many people do, especially during their Japanese days where they're making fresh sushi for everyone. So that is my favorite to go to.
Yes, Sushi Day is definitely popular. There's usually a line of students waiting to get in for that one for sure. So yeah, like Katie mentioned, we do have all of our different culinary kitchen classes do produce meals for students. So that is your meal plan, is you're actually eating the food that is prepared by current students, and that's their class. What's awesome is they are students that are further along in the program, so this is not the first class. They do go through fundamentals first to really get versed in, food sanitation, safety, and really kind of get up to speed. But it's these classes that take place a little bit later on in the program that are serving food out to current students. Noah, why don't you talk about what your favorite food has been so far?
My favorite meal I've had with my meal plan would be one of two things. Cuisines of the Mediterranean is my favorite cuisines class. I love when they get into Europe, especially France. I like the frog legs, and I like when they get into Italy and the different pastas. Other than that, I love when the restaurants don't have enough reservations and we open student dining opportunities, which is if we make a reservation quickly enough, we can get a lunch reservation and only spend 15 gold points, or a dinner reservation and only spend 20 gold points for a 3-course meal. So that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So our restaurants, which do serve the public, our restaurants on campus, are classrooms as well. And so it's important that we have a full reservation for those dining rooms so that the students have someone to cook for and someone to serve, right? So back of house is a class and front of house is a class in all of our restaurants. So sometimes in the, the dead of winter, there might be a few less reservations like Noah was mentioning, and we do give students the opportunity to snag up those reservations quickly, potentially as part of their meal plan if there is the space. Victoria, why don't we talk about what your favorite meal on campus has been so far?
Sure. So I have to agree with Katie that Asia's is amazing. There's always a super long line, but it's definitely worth the wait. When I can't go to Asia's, I usually go to a la carte, and I usually get the sauteed chicken.
I love the slang. You guys are really getting the inside scoop here, right? Asia's is what we call cuisines of Asia. So Meds is what we call cuisines of the Mediterranean. This is it. This is the good content that people want. That's awesome. Switching gears again, let's go into career fair. I know you guys have all attended at least one career fair so far, and let's talk about kind of what that dynamic looks like for you. What do you do to prepare for career fair? I know you mentioned, Noah, wanting to have a nice set of clean whites to wear, and kind of what your experience has been so far when you've gone to career fair. Let's start with Katie.
So career fair is a great time on campus. We get several emails about them upcoming to the date. And to prepare for it, what you really want to do is get your resume all set. Now, for one of your first classes that you'll take on campus called Professionalism, one of your requirements is to make a resume, and your teacher will assist you along the way to make a resume, and you'll have it ready for your career fair, which is beautiful. You don't have to do it on your own. You make sure it's nice and professional. And you go to that career fair, there's around 150 different employers there. If you have someone in mind from the sheets that we've been getting through the emails of what the companies are going to be, if you have someone in mind, you can go straight to them. But if you don't know what you want to do in the future, you don't know where to extern or intern at, or you don't know what you want to do for your career, you can just walk up and down the aisles in the gym and see what all the employers have to offer, which is amazing because you can see all the different aspects of the industry that you might not have even known were there before. And you can just talk to them. What is really cool about a career fair also is if you really click with someone on that first day of career fair, they're going to be on campus still the second day, and you can interview with them right there and see if you get the job, which is amazing. And so it's a really neat thing that we have on campus that all the students go to. I really suggest it, even if you are a freshman and aren't sure what you want to do in the future, you can really open your eyes up to things in the future.
Awesome. That's great advice. We're getting a ton of questions right now about what it's like living on campus. So let's talk about a little bit what it's like to live on campus, maybe what your current experience has been, and then what it's like to do outside of class. Is there any kind of fun stuff going on? What's happening? Victoria, why don't you start this one off?
Sure. So living on campus is super fun because you're always in the middle of all the fun things going on campus, and you're always surrounded by your friends. Going off of what I think I heard in the question, campus life, there's always something to do. There's always events being hosted by different clubs and different people, so there's always something to do. And being someone who lived in her own room growing up, and now living in a dorm room with 2 other people, I lived in a triple and now I live in a double. It is a bit of a change, but it is a really rewarding experience, and you kind of get to live with all of your friends, which is super fun.
Awesome. Now, Noah, I'm going to have you jump in on this one because I know you are an RA. So why don't we talk a little bit about like your experience having lived on campus, kind of what it's like to have roommates. And I got a big one. Can you cook in the residence hall? So why don't you lead off with that?
Okay. Yes. Big yes. Absolutely. Every residence hall on campus has a communal kitchen that is outfitted with equipment for you to use on a larger scale. So ovens and stoves, prep tables, sinks, things like that, water supply, obviously. Smaller equipment you'll have to bring for yourself. So any utensils you want to use and any cookware you want to use, you will have to supply. However, there is some supply in every RA office. And so if you call the RA on duty, or if the RAs are on duty, you can give them your ID in exchange for some tool that you want to use while you're cooking. And then when you finish using it, clean it and return it, and you get your ID back. In regards to housing on campus, my experience was really neat because my first semester I was in Hudson Hall, and I lived in a quad. So it was 4 guys in one room, and we each came from different parts of the country and totally different walks of life. And it was a really fascinating experience, kind of reminded me how big the world is and how much more is out there to see, which was really exciting. And then from there, I moved to Rosenthal, and I lived in a double. Once you get out of Hudson Hall, you go from communal bathrooms to having a bathroom in your room. And then after Rosenthal, I went on my externship, and after externship, I moved to upper campus. So I was living in the lodges, and that's a little bit different setup as well, where you live in a suite where 4 individuals or 5 individuals share one bathroom. And then beyond that, you can go to the townhouses where 7 or 8 people share one townhouse.
Awesome. And your experience clearly motivated you to take on another leadership role kind of within that residence. So talk a little bit about what it's like to kind of start the RA process, or if you want to become an RA.
Yeah. I believe twice a year there is the application process for RAs. So it starts with interest meetings. There's about 3 or 4 interest meetings held on different days at different times in different buildings. And there will be a member of the professional staff there just talking about what it is to be an RA. And people can see whether or not they're really interested in it. After that, you fill out an online application and you work through this really long, tedious process of being weaned out to fewer and fewer people until you're selected. So there's private interviews, there's a group process, things like that. And then eventually you'll get an email saying you've been accepted as an RA, or you've been put on a wait list, or you've been declined as an RA. So being accepted and declined are pretty obvious, but the wait list means that they're interested in having you become an RA, but at the current time, there's no open positions. So you will be next on the list so that when an RA graduates, you'll be the next one to step into their role.
Awesome. That's great information. So this is kind of like a job on campus, and I know Katie and Victoria, you guys both have some jobs on campus. So let's talk a little bit about what jobs on campus are like. Are they flexible with your schedule? And then what your current job is, what you guys are doing. So Katie, why don't you lead the way on this one?
Yeah, so of course, our entire school is flexible with all of the hours for all the jobs on campus, because they know that we go to culinary school. We do have 6-hour classes sometimes, and other times we have an hour and a half classes. So they're totally flexible with the schedule. I am a tour guide on campus, so I can kind of pick and choose when I want to give a tour, which lasts an hour to an hour and a half. So I can choose between classes or after classes, anything you want. I had a good friend of mine who works in the library on campus. There are jobs as a peer advisor on campus, so you can go upstairs, work in the academic advising office as a peer mentor, and you can help students with other questions about their resumes or classes they should take. You can work in the student dining facilities, so you can work in Roth Hall, or you can work in the Egg and cook on the weekends. You can work in the restaurants anytime you're available as well, which is, I know, what Victoria does, and I do on the weekends as well. So there are always job opportunities on campus, and one great thing, the office that sends out emails for the student jobs, their availabilities, they'll send you emails once or twice a week saying what they have open for students. So if you are looking for one, you can see if it might be one that you are interested in.
Awesome. Victoria, why don't you touch on kind of what your current job looks like?
Sure. So I'm front of house at Apple Pie right now. So I love my job. It's a super positive working environment. They do work really well with your schedule, where if you can only come in for 2 hours, they'll let you come in, leave for class, come back. They're very flexible and completely understand that we're in a learning environment, and they'll try to fit you into the schedule however you want to fit into the schedule. So they will work with you, and you can work front and back of house, whatever you want to do. So if you want to be more on the hospitality side, interacting with customers, you can, but you can also be working back of house with production. So it's really up to you where you want to be within the industry. So you get to kind of experience different things depending on what you want with what employment you choose to do on campus as well.
Awesome. Now, Victoria, stay on for a second because I want you to jump in to kind of help clarify this. But now you mentioned both Katie and Victoria that you guys can have the opportunity to work in one of the restaurants. Well, now that is also a classroom. So talk a little bit about the differences between kind of what your role is as a hired-on worker versus what students in the classroom side of things are actually doing.
Sure. So basically, we train all of the students coming in for the class. So I work with almost a completely new group of people every 3 weeks, which is awesome because you get to meet new people every 3 weeks and you train them in your position. And so basically you are almost, you are the teacher in the situation, and you explain all the things they have to do and make sure that everything is running accordingly. So you have a little more responsibility than in the classroom situation, because you have more understanding of what's going on and you help the class to succeed in whatever position they're working within.
Awesome. Katie, you want to add anything there? Nope.
I think she said it beautifully.
Okay, great. Awesome. Let's take a little bit of a side back to talking about things to do on campus, clubs, activities. I know you guys are all, really active in the student life scene, and you're doing a lot of different things. Katie, I know you're a member of our Bacchus Wine Society. I know that Noah is the vice president of our student government, which is awesome. And Victoria, you are a member of Canvas, which is the art club on campus. So let's talk about kind of those experiences and maybe what else there is to do. Noah, why don't you take the lead on this one? Because I know you've got a really good understanding of all the different types of clubs that are available on campus.
Yeah. For me, SGA is not the sort of thing you really join just for fun. and entertainment. We sort of try to facilitate the entertainment on campus, I guess. Our primary role as SGA is to be a voice for the students. So it's our job to advocate on behalf of students in speaking to administration on any concerns that the student body may have. So we have a board meeting once a week, and then we have a public meeting once every 2 weeks. To be part of SGA, we go through an application process and an election process as well. Other clubs on campus, I think Victoria said it a bit earlier, there's always something going on campus. Every month you'll get an email with a PDF of the events calendar for the month. And on there will be events hosted by RAs, there will be club events on there, events hosted by Spice and Res Life and everyone. That calendar is always full of things to do.
Yeah, for sure. I would say some of the highlights that I know students absolutely love are like Bada Bingo, which is like a really intense game of bingo that the entire campus plays. It seems like it's awesome. We give away like TVs and cash prizes and all these crazy things, but Bada Bingo is definitely a highlight. We do karaoke. Noah, like you mentioned, so the RAs might host like a milk and cookies night, or maybe a bring your own bowl where you come and get a sundae and kind of, build a sundae, that kind of thing. But you're right, there's definitely always stuff happening on campus. Some other really big clubs include we have a newspaper. We've got like Victoria is a member of the art club. We've got the wine society. We've got lots of different things. And the best part is if there is something you are really passionate about that maybe we don't currently have a club for, if you get a couple other students interested in that idea, you can request that it become a club, and it gets brought up with the student government, and they might sponsor you, help you get some funds to get up and running, and then you can start a club of your own. So there's lots of opportunity there. Victoria, why don't you talk about when your club meets and what some of those activities look like?
So we meet on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. So it's after any kitchen classes. Like everyone should be out of class at that point. We meet on Tuesdays, and basically it's just a table full of art supplies. You can take whatever you want and you just create. So it's a really fun environment to be in, because it's just a nice break from any stress or any homework or anything you're worrying about on campus. And it's just a time to be with your friends, meet new people, eat some food, make some crafts, and have a fun time.
Very nice. Katie, do you want to add anything, or you feel like they've covered most of it?
I think they covered a lot of it. Same goes with me, and my club meets on Thursdays, and we're open to the public. So anyone that wants to come, they can come. As long as they're 21, they're allowed to taste the wine that we're presenting about. But I agree that most of the clubs are at night, so that you have time to finish all your homework and all your classes before you go, and you can just hang out and relax for the rest of the night.
Awesome. So now shifting gears from life on campus, there might definitely be things that people want to do off campus as well. We're getting some questions about how do students get around? Are they allowed to have cars on campus? Do you travel down to New York City often? How does that work? Noah, why don't you talk on this one? You look like you got some good stuff to share.
Sure. I have a car on campus. All residents on campus are allowed to have a car. The only restriction is that you must apply for a parking permit. It doesn't cost you anything. You just have to submit proof of insurance, proof of license, and stuff like that. You get a little tag that you put on your bumper, and just lets everybody know that you're allowed to be parking there. There's a lot of stuff to do around campus. There's a lot of really good things to eat. If you go into Poughkeepsie or even farther south, traveling to the city, I would definitely suggest driving to the train station. And the train station is like a 4-minute drive from campus, very close by, and then take a train into the city just because parking is so expensive.
Yeah, parking in New York City is definitely expensive, so I would definitely recommend taking advantage of all the different resources that we have available to you guys. So like Noah mentioned, you're welcome to have your car on campus. It does not currently cost anything, but there are lots of alternatives that we would recommend. So I think it's even a best practice to maybe come for your first semester, assess if you really do need your car, and then if you do, you can always go home and get your car again. But we have a bus, we've got a shuttle that will take you up and down Route 9 to a bunch of different hot spots. We've got zip cars that are on campus, and then in the area we definitely do have Lyft and Uber, all those different things. Have any of you guys ever utilized Zipcar or maybe the shuttle that's available to you on campus? Nope, or have friends maybe who might have. Katie, if you want to share kind of what that might look like for somebody.
Yeah, so there is that bus on Saturday that so many of my friends have taken. You just get on the bus, and the mall is about a 15-minute drive south, and so you'll just take the bus. It's a relatively low fee, and you just take that bus to the mall, which also is where the movie theater is, and then there's all the stores in between the mall and back to school, like a Barnes and Noble. There's Target. And everything that you possibly need to go to on the weekends. I do have a car on campus, but it's definitely not recommended, because not necessary, I should say, because there are so many people that do have cars that you become friends with, and then you all just carpool, which is better for the environment anyway. And we like to go to Rhinebeck, which is just about 15 minutes north of the campus. You take Route 9 straight up, and it's a really cute town with lots of different shops and restaurants that you can go to. I know a lot of students go there on the weekends to hang out, because it really is a beautiful town. And then right directly next to campus is our amazing historic sites, the Vanderbilt building and the FDR. I've been to several times. So if you like history, it's very, very beautiful. There's a lot of open green grass. You can just walk around, take a little sit, and do your homework there if you want as well. So there's lots of stuff right next to campus to do.
Awesome. We are getting a ton of questions right now about your externship, which is an internship that takes place, during the course of your program. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? Katie, I'm going to have you start this one off, and then we're going to switch over to you, Noah. Let's talk about maybe what your externship experience was like. Did you get paid? How did you find an extern? We talked about this a little bit when we were talking about career fair. But yeah, let's dive into that a little bit more.
Yes, so there is a site that right on our student portal that you can click, and it is every single restaurant associated with our school for a possibility for externship. There's thousands. You can scroll up and down and see which one might interest you. They'll say if they'll pay you or not. They'll say if they give you housing or not, and what kind of restaurant they are, what cuisines they have. So I went to a seafood restaurant right on the Chesapeake Bay called the Severn Inn. I was really familiar with it because when I used to live in this one part of Maryland, it was right near my house. And I used to always go there for graduation or special events. And so I decided that I wanted to go there for my externship to learn all about sustainable seafood. And so that was a 15-week period where I got to really dive into fresh and sustainable seafood being right on the Chesapeake Bay. And it taught me a lot because I had never worked in a restaurant before prior. I just worked in the catering business. And so having the atmosphere was absolutely amazing. So you work your way around stations depending on where you are. If you're going to a restaurant setting, you might work around stations. So I started off on garde manger, which is the cold station, some people call it, garde manger. And then I worked my way to the line where they cook all the seafood. So I was searing scallops, I was cooking fresh fish quite often. And it really was a great experience to learn about myself as well. One of the biggest challenges and what I'm most thankful for is learning how to communicate. That is by far what I look back and cherish the most that they had taught me, because a lot of the members of the kitchen did not speak English, and it really teaches you how to communicate with those that you might have obstacles that you have to face to communicate with them. So that is what they taught me, and I am so thankful for that.
Awesome. So I want to emphasize, Katie mentioned that we do have a database that is put together for you by our academic advisors with thousands of different job locations that are looking for CIA externs specifically. And so this is a process that you are kind of helped with every step along the way. They help you kind of curate your resume and then actually find a couple different locations that's suited to something that you're interested in. And like she mentioned, mentioned, you can actually sort based on the location of where they are. So if you want to maybe go back to someplace that's a little bit closer to home, or maybe you want to do something that's international, you've got lots of options there. Some of our biggest externship participants are places like Disney, Google, like the Four Seasons, the Ritz-Carlton, the French Laundry. There's lots of really amazing variety available to students as well. And like you said, there are, I would say, probably more than 95% of these locations are paying students. So your externship is an opportunity for you to kind of put your skills to the test. And it is a time when you are not paying tuition and likely getting paid by this job opportunity to gain some additional real life experience. So externship is a really kind of cool opportunity. And like Katie mentioned, some locations even offer housing options as well. So there are some really good choices out there. Noah, why don't we talk about what your externship was like?
Sure. So I'm from southern Pennsylvania, where I am not near any salt water. So it's all freshwater fish around here. And when I was at school, I recognized that one of my biggest weaknesses was working with fresh fish from saltwater. And so I decided I wanted to go somewhere that I could work with that. So I went to the career fair and met a chef there from a place on Long Island. I fell in love with the restaurant and what they do. I went out, I took a day trip, I drove down, I had lunch with them, I met with the chef, and I fell in love with everything they did and a beautiful location. They actually offered staff housing for me, and they paid me while I was there. So I had to pay rent for the staff housing, of course, but I was able to get paid and work for them and learn more than I could have imagined while I was doing it. An important thing to remember is that while you are on externship, you have your externship manual, which is just a packet of work that you have to do, transcribing recipes, costing recipes, writing a few essays, things like that. As long as you space it out and do it over time, it's really not that much work. Where people run into trouble is they get caught up in having fun on their externship and enjoying working, or some of us working too many hours at a time and being too tired. And then they only have 2 weeks and their externship manual is due. And that's not good. You don't want to do that. That's when your work ends up getting sloppy and things like that.
Yeah, so you definitely want to space out that required manual that you need to complete as part of your externship as well, because you are getting credit for that extern, which is great. We got some more questions in about housing. What is it like to kind of select a roommate? Can you pick a roommate? How do you find out who your roommates are? Victoria, why don't you talk on this one?
Yeah, so you can pick your roommates. I actually met both of my roommates before all of the housing selection, so we all decided to live together. You can put in a request through our housing system. So basically you just go in and write down your roommates' names, and 90 times out of 100, they accept it, and you can live with whoever you want to. You can also do random selection if you would prefer to just meet new people or to live with someone if you don't have anyone specific in mind. There is a form that you fill out with a bunch of information about housing and like your living style, so they can match you with people as well who have similar cleanliness levels as you and different interests that are similar to you. So if you do choose random, it isn't a completely random selection process. You are matched with people who are similar to you in how you live. So it wouldn't be completely random, which is
so it's almost like a dating profile, kind of. You fill out kind of what your preferences are in terms of your style of living, if you have any habits that you care to share, that kind of thing. And then we have a system and a great team that will pair you up with students, similar to you, which is great if you don't know anyone that's attending school. But you do definitely have the option to request a roommate. It's just important that you both request each other. That I think is the one time when it wouldn't work out, is if you guys both didn't request each other because you just didn't fill out the form correctly. Okay, let's switch gears again, and let's talk a little bit about like our student rec center, the gym gym facilities and sports, that kind of a thing on campus. Noah, I know you've attended some sports games. Why don't you touch on kind of what our facilities are like and maybe what it's like to attend some of those sports games?
Yeah, absolutely. The only two sports that I've gone to watch are volleyball and basketball. I've been to the men's volleyball games and the ladies volleyball games and the basketball games. Recently, they've gotten, especially basketball, has gotten really popular, and Dr. JJ started doing his little courtside cafe where if you're one of the first ones in, you get a little ticket, and at halftime, you can go get a little snack from him. I like going to the campus sporting events because it's a really neat opportunity to see people that are so focused on one thing, enjoying something outside of food, because all we do is cook and eat and talk about food at all times, anywhere on campus. So it's really neat to go to something where you can see your fellow students enjoying something else for a change.
Awesome. And Katie, I know you mentioned you like to utilize the gym facilities as well. Why don't you talk about kind of what is available, the different types of facilities we have, maybe machinery, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so they have a cardio room and a weightlifting room. So in the cardio room, they have treadmills. They have several of them. There's always open ones. They have bikes, elliptical machines. Now, I don't know all the terms for the weightlifting side of things. I know they have all of the machines that you go like this and then this way. I don't know those words, but they have the weightlifting room that a lot of people utilize. And then we also have 2 gyms. They have an indoor track. They have a 5-lane pool. They have racquetball courts. And then they also have pool tables and ping pong tables. So you can get some fitness and some ping pong. But they're open almost all the time. I mean, from morning to nighttime. So you can go anytime that you have available time to spare.
Awesome. And we did get a few questions about, can you bring a bike to campus? The answer is yes, you can definitely bring a bike to campus. We ask you to register it just like a car, so that way we can know who the owner is, that kind of thing, if your bike is ever left someplace, maybe accidentally instead of where it's supposed to be. So yeah, you're definitely welcome to do that. But we do also have a bike borrow program. So you can check out a bike, there's no cost, and to use it for the day, just bring it back by the end of the day. So we've got, I think, about 15 different bikes that students are welcome to kind of rent as well. I say rent, like take it out for the day, bring it back, that kind of a thing, which is great. Now, I want to start to just kind of wrap things up a little bit. Why don't we talk about broadly any really good tips for success that you guys might have, for these prospective students, these new incoming students? What is something that, you would like to kind of share with them? Like one key piece of advice, maybe something you wish you would have known, that kind of a thing. Katie, why don't you start off?
Yeah, I would say my biggest advice is ask questions to your instructors. When you have them, don't hold them in and let the uncertainty grow. Just ask them right away for any clarification of anything, so you don't make any mistakes, and so that you know the right way to do things from the beginning. So definitely ask. Do not be shy to ask the questions. That's what I suggest.
Victoria, how about you?
Take lots of notes, especially when you ask questions. Everything, even if you think you'll remember it later, write it down, because in the moment when you are in the kitchen or anywhere, that's the moment where you're going to forget whatever information you said you'd remember 5 minutes ago. You want to just write down everything.
Awesome. And Noah?
Yeah, my advice would be to push yourself in every way. Don't get too comfortable. There's a lot of opportunities to explore new avenues on campus and learn things that you wouldn't expect to be learning at culinary school. And things can really turn in your favor if someone's just looking for volunteers. Take advantage of that opportunity. Be willing to go really far outside your comfort zone and do something you've never done before, and give it your best shot, and just be willing to learn.
I love that, Noah. That's such great advice. You know, we are so fortunate because CIA is truly a not-for-profit college that everyone is here really just to help you succeed and be the most successful that you really can be. And he's right. Take advantage of all these great opportunities that you know, present themselves, whether it's introducing yourself to all the different departments on campus, you know, seeing if you can help out or volunteer or participate in lots of different things can open up so many different doors for you. So there's more than just going to class and going home at the end of the day. There are lots and lots of things going on here at CIA, which is great. All right, the last thing I just want to have you guys share with us is, what is your best CIA memory so far? Something that really just stands out, the most kind of quintessential best CIA thing that's happened so far. Victoria, why don't you take the lead?
Sure. So the best memory so far has to be the cookie competition at the end of last semester. Two of my friends and I got together and we created a cookie concept from scratch. Our concept was then chosen for the competition itself, and we got to compete against our fellow CIA students, making cookies for the public and judges. It was great to see a positive reaction from strangers and the judges and everyone on our idea. And it was great to see all of the creativity within our campus itself. I was a first semester student at the time, so I was very proud of myself coming to the CIA just a few months ago and being able to create this whole new idea and compete with students who were way older than me and had much more experience within the kitchen. So it was a really great time.
Awesome. Noah, how about you?
My favorite memory from on campus would probably be the day I finished culinary fundamentals. When you're in your fundamentals class or in your baking pastry techniques class, you're still kind of being initiated into the CIA. And when you talk to your fellow students, you're still in fundamentals. You're still learning how everything works a little bit. So finishing that is almost like a mini graduation where now you feel like you know what's going on, you know how the school works, you know where to get different things, you know where the fish room is, the meat room is, and the storeroom are. You know what you're doing, you know your way around. And next semester you head into classes that you get to finally cook for and serve your fellow students. So it was just this sense of accomplishment and sort of resetting our confidence. Like, yeah, this is where we are, and this is where we're going to stay, and this is what we're going to do.
That's so great. Thanks so much, Noah. All right, last but certainly not least is Katie.
My favorite memory of CIA is the burger off. So the burger competition during the summer. It was the most fun I ever had on campus. It was outside on our soccer and baseball field, and there were so many events going on. So I went around tasting everyone's burgers and voting for my favorite. There was a tie-dye station where you could tie-dye t-shirts. There was a station where you could dunk the chefs that were judging the competition. So they would go to the dunk tank and you'd throw a softball and try to dunk them in the water. And it's really amazing to see them outside of the classroom. So when they're a normal person, because you don't really envision them that way when you're in class, so seeing them outside of it is it's really funny.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And thank all of you so much for joining us. A big thank you to our panelists, Katie, Noah, and Victoria. We appreciate all of your questions. If you submitted a question and we weren't able to answer, a member of our team will be in contact with you after the session. If you have any additional questions, feel free to email us at admissions@culinary.edu. Additionally, look out for an email from us with a link to a virtual tour of campus just after the session ends. You'll also see a recorded copy of the session on our website if you should like to reference it. Again, thank you so much for attending today's session. We look forward to welcoming you all on our beautiful campus in the future. Thanks so much, everyone. We appreciate it. Bye.